Chapter 28. Meeting Akhenaten. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 12:19-21. I was reading about monotheism and polytheism in the library of the Learning Place when Aten stopped by and introduced himself. "I am Aten," he said. "Pleased to meet you. I know about your mission, Sebastian, and I am aware that you wanted to know more about my incarnation on Earth," Aten stated. "Yes, I'd like to know more about your experience. You were one of the first of the 22 original divinities who incarnated on Earth to fight this war between the light and the darkness," I noted. As you might know, Aten was defined as the disk of the sun in ancient Egypt mythology. In ancient Egypt, some people believed that the dead rise to the heavens and unite with the sun disk. The celestial body merged with its maker, Aten said. "But you were one of the original creators. You probably knew that the world was created by 22 gods and 52 angelic beings near as powerful as yourselves. Why tell the souls on earth that there was only one creator?" I asked. "I believe the light has already explained to you that we did not want to create a war among the gods. However, we failed, and this is what we're living now," Aten said. "What did you teach people?" I asked. "I told people that night is a time of fear," Aten said. "Why?" I asked. "I was referring to this war between the light and the darkness. Work is done best when the sun, meaning Aten, is present. Aten cares for every creature, and he created all countries and people. When a good person dies, he continues to live in the city of life for the dead," Aten said. "But you requested loyalty to Aten when you knew that you were not the only divinity," I replied. "That's true, but I thought it would be easier for the people to understand a single creator than a multitude of creators. Remember that the light wanted to unify the deities into a single force of creative energy, because we truly believed that humanity would be easier to lead with a single unified deity," Aten answered. "When you said when a good person dies, he continues to live in the city of light, you didn't tell people that life continues. If not in the city of light, it continues in the city of darkness. That's none other than the scanning place," I said. "People were not ready to know the truth then, and I believe people are not ready today either," Aten answered. "Why not?" I asked. "The whole creation has been a failed experiment," Aten said. "Can you tell me more about the experience of a god incarnated in an Egyptian pharaoh?" I asked. "I was born in the city of Thebes, and it was the year 1378 before what is called the Common Era, which is also known as the Christian Era. My father was Amenhotep III, and when I was 11 years old I became a pharaoh, and given the name Amenhotep IV. The meaning of the name was the arrival of beauty for myself and all humanity. At the time of my crowning, I began what we could consider a revolution. I decided to change the location of my crowning. As a result, the ceremony took place in Hermonthis instead of Karnak, as the tradition had dictated up until that time. From the start, I was openly in opposition to the powers of the priests. I knew that they took advantage of the simplicity and ignorance of the people to benefit from those very same people, and I confronted the priests and questioned their power with so much determination that they eventually became my enemies," Aten said. "When did you start having your revelations?" I asked. "Since the time I was a child, I began to have revelations, and it was through these revelations that I understood that there was only one God and creator of the universe. I genuinely believed that there could not be a multitude of gods who needed to be pleased, because only one of them could be the one and only creator of everything. Moreover, my whole life I attempted to establish a more intimate and personal relationship with that God," Aten stated. But that God was yourself and all the other creators. Again, you are lying to the people, I insisted. The clergy and the people of Egypt were in agreement that the sun, which was called Ra, was the god of all gods, and they called him Amun-Ra. However, I believed that the sun was merely a visible symbol of that god, whom he believed to be invisible to humans. I named this god Aten. It was then that I changed my name to Akhenaten, which means a disciple of Aten. Aten continued. Then you became the first disciple of the one and only Creator? I asked. I believed that one and only one God existed throughout the whole universe, and he was capable of penetrating everything that existed. The sun god provided light and life for all beings, and all lives matter. That is the reason why I wanted Aten represented as a sunshine ray. It is the sun ray that penetrates our lives and gives us strength, so that we can continue to move forward. These sun rays penetrate inside all of us, despite our skin color and race, and make no sexual or social class distinction. Aten answered. Then you became the sole intermediary between God, or the gods, and the people, I asked. I was chosen on behalf of the light, so that I could spread more light throughout the world. Aten was a universal God, and he was the creator of all real things before this current world, Aten answered. Did you know anything about the battle that took place between Atlantis and Lemuria, and which ended with the destruction of both these civilizations? I asked. Of course I knew, and therefore my destiny was going towards the end, by placing me in confrontation with the power that had until then reigned over Egypt. I confiscated all of the priests' properties, and as a result they promised revenge. Moreover, in the end, they finally did execute revenge. However, it was my medical doctor who gave me the poisonous calyx provided to my doctors by the priests, and that is what caused my death at the age of 28, Aten said. You are being called by some historians the heretic pharaoh, because you abolished polytheism. You closed all the temples that were dedicated to other gods to establish the only cult, the cult of Aten. You were the first to introduce monotheism. You attempted to end all popular superstitions and to once and for all finish the total control and power that the priests had over the people. However, what was new about all of this? I asked. If we look through history, it was nothing more than a staged struggle for power which took place between an assumed god and their supposed intermediaries on earth. After seizing the priests' properties, I rejected any agreement with the nobility of the time, and I established equality among my citizens. I promulgated a series of new laws which provided extraordinary rights to my citizens. However, these new laws were unpublished at the time, and my ideas were revolutionary and provocative, Aten said. Not only were those rights that you promulgated part of the revolution of old Egypt, but in today's Egypt they would also be considered revolutionary, and we're talking about 3,400 years later, I said. I was not only an authentic revolutionary, but I was also a visionary of light, as I was a true reflection of the light in this cruel and merciless world. I confiscated and distributed the land of the nobility and gave it to the peasants, and I also constructed a multitude of houses for the poor, Aten told me. How could a society of 3,400 years ago permit such dramatic change? I asked. I was too advanced for my time, and just like any other human being who was ahead of the times, I paid for the price for that, and the price was very high, as I paid with my life, Aten answered. It's the same struggle over and over, the struggle between the gods, and the struggle of God Amun against God Aten, I said. The struggle between the gods extended itself to the towns, and as a result there were continuous massacres and endless bloodshed. I abolished slavery, and the nobility that based their economy on that inexpensive but efficient labor system turned against me violently. My radical experiment ended up being destroyed by my very own dreams. I believed my dream was an excellent idea. It was unreachable. How could it possibly have been achieved 3,400 years ago? Aten asked. But why did you do that? It was a very early stage in this war between the light and the darkness, I asked. My childhood visions allowed me to see a new future for humanity. Human beings were the basis of this new future. Real human beings were the one and only God. I believed that the gods created the world using numerical sequences, and that by understanding those numerical sequences, we should be able to understand our world, Aten answered. Can you be considered the father of numerology? I asked. Pythagoras learned it from my manuscripts, Aten answered. But were you right? Does a real God exist? I had asked myself that same question at the time the light had given me this assignment, I stated. My wish in life was to be able to contemplate the real live face of that real God, in who I firmly believed. I saw him throughout my dreams, but later I wanted to see him face to face, Aten said. But you knew better than that, I said. No, I did not know, even being a god and a creator. I did not have access to the truth during my incarnation on earth, Aten answered. On July 24th, 1350, 7 plus 2 plus 4 plus 1 plus 3 plus 5 equals 22. Before our era, at around noon you were aged 28, and you were in Tel El Armana. The sun had just made its transition. You extended your hand toward the sky, which represented the final elevation that you were always trying to discover. You wrote and pronounced a hymn for Aten. When you leave, when all the eyes that you have created are asleep, when no one can contemplate your artwork, you, my God, are within my heart, and there is no one who knows you better than your son Akhenaten, as you shared him with your goals and strength, I said. Yes, shortly after that I died of poisoning. Along with my death, the sun became my shadow, or to say it like it is, the sun became my darkness. After my death, all the previous political and religious orders became based on polytheism, and inequality began to rule the world once again, Aten said. Did you leave any legacy? I asked. My legacy was inherited and rescued by the Rosicrucian order, and many years later the order would promulgate the teachings of that great pharaoh throughout the world. The Rosicrucian people considered him at that time, and still consider him now, as the founding father of his very own order, Aten said. You are the fountain of humanity's future growth, and you denoted abundance emerging from division, I said. Through creation itself, it is the realization of the Word and the Divine, Aten said. Can you be considered as a mystic of light? I asked. When I understood my role, I changed my name to Akhenaten, which means the messenger of light. I was a prophet, not a god, who revolutionized many new spiritual beliefs. I believe that my legacy on earth is nothing more than nature's gift from a supreme God. The light itself has a source of divine energy in which we can find life clues or secret codes applicable to our own lives, Aten mentioned. Then you consider your incarnation as a failure? I asked. Not necessarily. It was a short incarnation, but opened the door for monotheism. A few years later, Moses was sent to play one of the major arcana cards of the Egyptian tarot, and he made monotheism finally to be accepted, Aten said. I still don't understand the insistence of your gods of the light in trying to convince people of the unity of God, as God is not united. We're fighting a war between gods, and you want people to believe something that's not real? I stated. There is but one first cause that has its being of itself, and one on which all other beings depend. God gives life and motion to everything that exists. For people on earth, it's better to believe that there is only but one God, because there is but one first cause, Aten said. This is too confusing for me, knowing what I know, as I've met some of the original gods, I stated. There is but one infinite being. There is but one God composed by all of the 22 original divinities and the 52 angelic beings, and together we created the world, Aten noted. But we know that at least there are two omnipotent gods, the light and the darkness, and that there is a contest between them, I said. At the end of this war between the light and the darkness, there would only be one omnipotent God, one God that will rule half the souls and half of humanity, because half of the gods and half of the souls created will be destroyed by the one omnipotent God winning the war, Aten concluded.